It's great to have you today here at my desk again. I now think I've been on off location more often than I've been on location. So today, though, I want to talk about 2022. We're in the first few days of 2022. I want to talk a bit about some of our losses and gains, hopes and fears, aspirations and resolutions. I think it's been an incredibly tough couple of years. We did not expect in 2022 to still be in the middle of the pandemic with the Omicron. But I think there's a couple other losses for me personally and gains that I want to talk about. At the end of 2021, an individual by the name of Bell Hooks passed away. December 15th was the date she passed away, just before Christmas. And Bell Hooks was incredibly, I would say, influential, instrumental in my life in so many different ways over the past few years. Now, Bell Hooks, interestingly enough, penned her name from a grandmother. That was not her name, but she spells it with a small b and a small h. If you look her up or you Google her and you Google some of her books, I believe she's written about 25 books. But the reason she uses the small b and small h is she says she's significant but not overly significant and wants to live in humility with culture, with society, with humanity. She was a black author. She was a black academic. She was a feminist. She was really a warrior for those of us who live in the margins. And Bell Hooks was the first who really schooled me in feminism. Way back in the day in 1984, I picked up one of her books, which was entitled In Feminist Theory. And in that book, I realized I really fell in love with her writings and the way she wrote, because it was a very simple writing and an easy way to understand feminism and an easy way to understand those that were living in the margins. And for me, that was part of my journey into activism and into working with people who were in the margins. Now, she also talks much about intersectionality. She talks about capitalism. She talks about gender. She talks about what she describes as our culture's ability to perpetuate systems of oppression and class and domination. And what I love about Bell Hooks is as she talks about race and racism, she really unpacks it very differently and really emphasizes what I would say and what she says is really the class wars in the United States. You know, we talk about the upper income, we talk about the middle income, we talk about lower income, and she says that we're really a society that's based on class and keeping people oftentimes in the class into which they were born, similar to experiences people have in countries like India. Well, I took a summer class with Bell Hooks, actually, at the University of Minnesota. And it was a class that was entitled Feminism, Patriarchy, and Race in the 2000s. And again, it changed my outlook and it changed my lens and the way that I looked at the world and the way that I looked at people that lived in poverty and people who lived in the margins, and especially women. The other thing that Bell Hooks taught me was she taught me about love. She has this book that's all about love and all about her perspective of what love is. And she wrote this book way back in 1999, which sometimes sounds like eons ago. And it was entitled All About Love, New Visions. And this one quote in particular remained with me. And I'm going to read it just so I make sure I get it right. She says, "Love is an act of the will, both an intention and an action. Love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Love is as love does. Love is an act of the will, namely both an intention and an action." And again, as I was doing ministry and pastoral ministry and campus ministry and working with individuals in the margins, how did that school me about love? I guess it broadened my understanding of love. Is love more than a feeling, but love is an action. That in essence, when you're married or in relationships or in friendships or with family members, you know, each day that you get up and each day that you interact with people, you have to really decide to love them because you're not always going to feel love. And I think for me, that was a really important Educational moment about love. The other loss I want to talk about, and this may seem to be quite a juxtaposition, is Betty White. Betty White, who passed away. She was phenomenal in The Golden Girls. Nobody would deny that. That was a phenomenal show. The Mary Tyler Moore Show. And then I believe when she was about 90 years young, she was the host for Saturday Night Live, and she was absolutely fantastic. But bell hooks being a powerful female figure in my life, I think Betty White was also a powerful character, female role model for me in my life, because she had tenacity. And the Golden Girls, I remember as a young individual, they addressed social issues head on. They addressed euthanasia, they addressed homelessness, they addressed HIV and AIDS and helped destigmatize HIV and AIDS. They actually talked about marriage equality and supported marriage equality. They talked about race, they talked about health care, they talked about domestic violence. And that was 1985 to 1992, when oftentimes those things were not necessarily being addressed by mainstream television. And I think what was beautiful about the Golden Girls, they also made it clear that women of a certain age were incredibly powerful, right? They were diverse. They were sexual. And these friendships of these four women were all from very different backgrounds. And yet they heard each other, they listened to each other, they related to each other, and they cared and they supported each other. I think that whole premise of the Golden Girls, four women navigating life after marriage and finding companionship with each other in Florida, was feminist in nature. While the women exchanged quips, and certainly they got into their disagreements and their fights, the overarching message of that show focuses on the importance of chosen family and women supporting other women. And that's what I got from bell hooks. That's what I got from the Golden Girls. And I think in that show, we also see women of a certain age, right, enjoying life after marriage and after the deaths and divorces. So, how does this relate to Back Bay Mission, you may ask? Well, I think Back Bay Mission, part of our role and part of our goal is to really serve those who are in the margins. We serve men, we serve women, right? But we offer to those women the kind of respect and support that they need, especially because it's so hard for women who are on shelters. It's so hard for women who are single mothers, trying to support families, trying to take care of their children, trying to run households, right? And these are the exact things that we see with women like bell hooks, with women like Betty White, the tenacity and the strength and the beauty. So that's where I find some of the intersectionality, right? And in this year of 2022, we can focus on the negative, we can focus on the challenges of COVID, we can focus on our COVID exhaustion, which we're all experiencing no matter where you're at on the globe. Or I guess we can take this again, as I've shared many times, as an opportunity to really feed our better nature, to feed the better in ourselves, to think about love in new and different ways, and to love those people that we're sheltering with and that we're challenged with in maybe new and life-giving ways, and realizing that love is a choice, it's not always a feeling. To realize that in this country, we're continuing to have the challenges that we have around race and around class, and to maybe pick up some books by bell hooks and find a new perspective. Watch a few episodes of The Golden Girls that really address some of those historical social justice issues. And then I want to close with what may seemingly be tangential again. Betty White, one of her quotes, because we know that she was a huge fan of animals, and I'm an incredible fan of animals and animal rights, as I am about human rights, probably almost equivalent. But Betty White said this, and I think this is the kind of intersection between our humanity, our nature as human beings, as animals, and animals in general. She said this. Betty White said, and I quote, "Animals don't lie, animals don't criticize. If animals have moody days, they handle them better than humans do." Boy, and if there's anything that's come to the forefront now, especially after so many months of this pandemic, and probably good information and bad information that's circulating, right? Is that we're sometimes handling it well, and sometimes we're incredibly moody, and we're frustrated, and we're depressed, and we're angry. But I think it's really important just to remember as we enter 2022 to like the animals, to imitate the animals, and imitate people like Bell Hooks and Betty White. Don't lie, don't criticize. If we have moody days, let's handle those days better and try to be the best humans we can possibly be. And it was interesting today, right out of the gate, when I got here about 7:30, 7:45, we had a situation out in our parking lot. Folks waiting to get showers and waiting to get services in Micah Day. There was an altercation between two individuals. And I was thinking about power differentials, and I was thinking about class, and I was thinking about race, because it was between a white man and a black man, and how difficult and challenging our world is right now. But I just encourage you to dig deep, to find that better self, to Google Bell Hooks, to read a book. If you can't afford a book, go online and read about Bell Hooks and the marvelous life she lived, and Betty White. And let's imitate their tenacity, their love, their generosity, and their worldview and perspective on life in 2022. So thanks for joining me. Be well. As always, we ask for your support, especially in prayer and energy, and if not that, certainly through your checks. So God bless your day.